gotta be, it's
Okay,
gotta be old. It's gotta be, you know, back a month or so, a couple of months maybe.
Okay.
I'm sure it's in relation to that matter that we shared together.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Council President Robert J. Sylvia.
Here.
Vice President Paul M. Rodrick.
Here.
Councilor Terry Flynn. Councilor N. Teresa Santos.
Yeah,
Councilor Dennis B. Toronto.
Here.
Councilor Barbara A. Von Villas.
Here,
Councilor Thomas P. Welch III.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening, everyone. We have about 16 people that signed up to talk tonight, and we'll go with the 3 minutes each. But I thought it'd be appropriate prior to starting the meeting, if we let everybody know how we got to where we are. And maybe I'm going to ask Councilor Toronto after to maybe expound on a few things. But I just want everybody to know that the trip that this has taken to get here. Back in April of 2018, we saw a need as a council to establish a committee to look into senior affordable housing. And in doing so, at that time, we motioned to appoint Councilor Santos, Councilor Toronto, and Councilor Viveras, the senior citizen director. And senior citizen director, we also shall submit 1 or 2 names from the senior citizens board to be part of that committee. Okay, this was back in April 2018. As things went along, we got into February of 2019. In fact, I put a memorandum on the docket to get an update. And so didn't, shortly after that, so didn't Councilor Toronto, who wanted an update from the town administrator in regards to some feasibility consultants issue. But at that time, and the complexion of the council had changed, we made a motion to reestablish the committee because it was, I don't want to say it died. I don't want to say it fizzled out, but we were sitting with bated breath waiting for things to happen, and we didn't feel it was happening. So at that time, Vice President Rodrick, Councilor Flynn, and Councilor Toronto, a senior citizen director, Arlene Call, and 2 senior citizen members were appointed. And the committee was supposed to report back to the council within 2 months. And this is all part of our records in regards to this. During that time, I know that there was a number of meetings. I know they met frequently. In fact, I know they even came back to us with a recommendation who was going to be the project manager and take the lead on this. We put a proposal together prior to that in regards to church community, and the committee evaluated church community and other options, and they came back with a recommendation for us to go with Frank Spinella, who has it today. But I think it's important because I don't know about some of you, but I've been getting inundated again with phone calls and emails. And a lot of the questions have been, why, as butters, were we not made aware of this? Why didn't anybody reach out and tap our shoulders? And my only answer to them was, and I'm going to ask Councilor Toronto, who championed this, and he was the chair for this, to maybe let everybody know the processes that they worked through and what they did, because that seems to me to be the biggest complaint at this time. And I don't know, and I'll ask you all later on for your own personal feedback, but before we get into this, but Councilor Toronto, if you could, because you were the chair on this for a while, could you just update us and tell us what the committee did, and if anything, how we got the abutters involved? Because I knew you held a lot of meetings because you posted them and I saw the postings of them.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Bob. Actually, you summed it up pretty good. I mean, we were definitely started back in 2018, probably a little earlier than that, working with the senior center, looking at our comprehensive plan, looking at what we're doing for senior affordable housing. And yes, I did recommend that we put a committee together to look into it. And we did form that committee. We were looking into it. We had some really good meetings. We came and asked for a feasibility consultant to assist us in the project to the council as a recommendation, and was denied. And then the actual committee was actually, I think it was a new year, we were being sworn in, that board was somehow discontinued. And then we basically had to I made a motion to actually form the committee again because we needed to get it done, and there was a lot of people who wanted to be involved. So we involved the community, we involved the seniors. Paul was the vice chair in the meetings, and a lot of great meetings, a lot of great education. We met, on a regular basis. We advertised it. It'd been written up in the paper in regards to what we were doing over there in regards to affordable housing. So there was a lot of public awareness. I can't say we did a targeted mailing or, towards the neighborhood, which probably is something we, looking back, probably should have done a little sooner. But we haven't had much detail either in regards to exactly what this thing's going to look like. And that was kind of something we talked about in the meetings, that you sort of want to make sure you're prepared to answer the questions when they come. And we're still trying to decide whether we're going to go 3 levels or 2 levels or, what we're doing. So I welcome the feedback of the people who want to speak tonight. I'd like to hear from them. Frank is with us tonight. He's willing to talk with them and assure them that we will do things to admit, if there's some concerns. And as a council, we'll decide. It's not my vote. And it's been a privilege to be able to be on the committee with Paul and Arlene and Chris and all the folks from the senior center. So that's kind of how we got where we are. And there's been a lot of thoughts, and we then came back again when we formed the committee, did some more detailed studies, meetings, and we came back and we needed someone like Frank to help us navigate the waters. One of the things that we heard loud and clear from everyone we talked to, that you need someone who's done this before, who can help you navigate the waters. So after interviewing a number of folks and the committee looking at it and the council being involved, we did choose Frank as a project manager. So he's here to answer some questions tonight as well. So excited. I hope we can resolve and help people, accept this, because it's a great project. I think it's a great location. That's my personal opinion. And I look forward to this meeting tonight and hearing what people have to say.
Okay, and thank you for that, the recap. I think it's important to let everybody know how we get to where we are today. So, item number 1, discussion of the location of affordable senior housing at the Berkeley Peckham School property, project priorities, how to proceed, and matters related thereto.
Motion to begin discussion of location of affordable senior housing at the Berkeley Peckham School property, project priorities, how to proceed, and matters related thereto.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm going to call your names. When I call your names, I'm going to ask you that you raise your hand because by raising your hand, the clerks that are operating the equipment downstairs, they can move you over so we can see you and then we can listen to you. And again, I'm going to ask you to keep your comments to about 3 minutes. We have a number of people that want to speak tonight. And the first one is Rita Finn. Rita? Rita, you're muted.
All right, am I on now?
You're on now. Rita, if you could introduce yourself, name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Rita Finn. I'm at 209 Corey Lane. I just want to say good evening to all the town council members and say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I just want to reiterate that I endorse the affordable senior housing on a town survey that was sent last year asking for resident input. But the thing that I'm concerned about is the location at Berkeley Peckham School and also the federally funded connection. After listening to the meeting on February 9th, Mr. Spinella discussed a few of the necessary qualifications for the federal financing approval. And I was surprised to learn that the Middletown seniors do not and cannot have preference, and that this project will also be opened to families that qualify. The other thing that I also caught my attention was that it's 40 plus owner occupied units. And in the packet that I received, it details on how that could increase. And at the meeting, it was suggested by one of the members to start at about 32 because of the footprint of the building. And Mr. Spinella said that it has to be at least 40 to qualify for approval. And the other thing I heard at the February 9th meeting was that the boundary restrictions that Middletown might have in place for how close a building can be to the border of a piece of property could be waived because it's being federally funded. So I would just like to say, in addition to the letters that I sent to all of you and in my speaking at the last meeting, that I have questions as to why the town council is asking for federal financing if Middletown residents will not be the primary recipients. And why is the project taking place at the Berkeley Peckham School when there's no public transportation? Also, that the financing, it means that this housing project must be open to families. So how is this senior housing? And I wonder if the town council is really ready for the consequences of being connected to a federally funded program. It's making me a little bit nervous. So based on the February 9th meeting discussions and the project's information packet that was mailed to me, my personal experience and observations of federally funded affordable housing around the state, I'm still extremely concerned about the federal financing connection, the requirements, the effect the federal financing will have on our quiet neighborhood, and the effect the federal financing will have on the town of Middletown for decades to come. I know you've been working hard. I know that you've been trying to find the right spot and the right people involved, and I'm sure you have, but I'm not excited about it being at the Berkeley Peckham School. So thank you for listening. That's all I have.
Thank you, Rita. Mr. Solicitor, you want to make a couple comments?
Thank you, Rita.
Mr. Solicitor, you want to make a couple comments?
President. Yes, Mr. Chairman, just very briefly. With regard to the statement that this would be open to seniors and non-seniors alike, that's not actually accurate. We're talking about federal affordable housing, which theoretically could be open to people over 55 and people under 55. But the way that this project would be permitted, we have the ability to restrict it, or the town has the ability to restrict it to seniors. That's one of the few exemptions when you can actually restrict who is entitled to live there under the Fair Housing Act. So we do have the ability, as in other projects of this type that have received the same sort of funding, to make it open to seniors versus anybody else. So I just want to make that clear that there is a way to make that work, and that is part of the plan, that it would not be open to seniors and non-seniors alike.
Thank you. Okay, Kevin Downey. Kevin? Kevin, if you could raise your hand, we can move you over.
Is he there, Karen? No, Bob, he's not. She doesn't see him. Oh, never mind. She's got him.
Okay.
He just needs to unmute. He just needs to unmute, Bob.
Kevin, if you can hear us, *6, and you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much for letting me speak to the council this evening. I would like to suggest that I'm perplexed.
Kevin.
Yes,
Name and address, please, for the record. Thank
my
you.
name is Kevin Downey, and I live at 120 Corey Lane at the Whitehall Farm condominiums, and I have resided there since 1986. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the council. And my first observation is I'm perplexed why you would want to locate a senior citizen housing complex at the Berkeley Peckham School. It's very isolated. There's nothing within walking distance of our neighborhood. There's a 7-Eleven down the street and a coffee shop and not a whole lot else. And besides the fact that the sidewalks in our Green Avenue neighborhood, to say the least, are substandard. I would never want to walk down there if I had a cane or, even in a wheelchair. It's just not a very housing. I understand also that when you accept federal funding for a project, you cannot discriminate for people living outside of the town. You have to accept applications statewide. Now, given the size of Middletown, you are very likely to end up with a majority of your residents being non-Middletown residents. It's commendable that you want to establish senior citizen housing, but I don't think this is the location to do it. As I understand it, the town has been pursuing a project on West Main Road, which would run from the Kennedy School to the Coddington Highway. In my mind, that would be an ideal location because the seniors could walk through the neighborhood, get to a restaurant, get to stores, and also make themselves available along West Main Road. Here on Green Avenue, we have no access to any public transportation. Also, you propose to have low-income housing in the neighborhood. Many cities and towns across the country have done away with putting up low-income housing. They refer to it as economic segregation. They would prefer to have a mixed income housing project put up in their city or town. And I would suggest that the model actually exists in Middletown at the Oxbow facility, where you have mixed income housing, where you have market rates for rental units, which make it possible for low income people to live in the same community. Again, it's along West Main Road, and it makes it affordable for people to get on.
Kevin, I'm not sure if you're done, but we lost you.
I am done. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I will send in a written notice.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay, Kate Alshant. Kate, if you could raise your hand, and we can move you over. Kate, if you're on *9, raise your hand. There you go.
Hi, my name is Catherine Alshant and I live at 54 Berkeley Court. And we are very concerned about this project going in at the Berkeley Peckham School because of many reasons that people that have gone before me have already brought up. But one of my concerns is our wells. We're all on wells on Berkeley Court. And I'm just concerned that if you got digging around the area and everything, it's gonna interfere with our water. Also, we've had, we're concerned about parking on the street. If there's an overflow from Berkeley Peckham, like with baseball games and everything, and they stop parking on Berkeley Court, it's not gonna, it's a very narrow road and we're not gonna be able to fit everybody on the street. I had written a letter to the council earlier this week, and some of the points I wanted to make was the ball field being interfered with, water runoff, Maidford River problems with that, light pollution, noise pollution, and emergency services. And I think that Linden School would be the better place for this project because it's on a bus line, and I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous.
That's all right. We can't see you, Kate.
No, don't be nervous, Kate.
Anyway, it's on a bus line. It's around restaurants. People can walk to the creamery or the grocery stores. They have access to grocery stores and pharmacy and everything in a Aquidneck shopping center. So thank you for listening to me.
All right, Kate, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate.
Danielle McCarthy. Danielle, if you could raise your hand.
Hi, Danielle McCarthy, 54 Berkeley Court. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us as residents and neighborhood members. So I wrote something, I'm just going to read it. My husband Dan and I purchased his childhood home on Berkeley Court last year. We consider ourselves very fortunate to have been able to do so. It solved a problem that many other Middletown residents face, finding affordable housing for our family. We are no strangers to the housing issues on Aquidneck Island. Being a young working family, we found ourselves looking at an overpriced, extremely competitive housing market. While at the same time, my mother-in-law was facing retirement with the same concerns. Where could she afford to live on a fixed income? The decision to combine our households was not an easy one, but it made the most sense for our families. We have a home in a quiet neighborhood to raise our family, and my mother-in-law is able to stay in her home of 40 years and enjoy the peaceful days of retirement without financial worry. I share our story to underline that I'm personally familiar with the struggles of affordable housing on Aquidneck Island, and I do value the efforts the town council is making to find a solution for Middletown seniors.
Hello. Hey, I'm at a meeting.
With
Bye.
that being said, I do not think that the Berkeley Peckham site is an appropriate one for an affordable housing development. I recently shared with the town council a detailed list of reasons why, but I will share tonight our main concern. I feel the strain that a multi-unit development would put on this area of Middletown is being overlooked. The makeup of this area is primarily large lot, single-family homes, most of which are on groundwater wells. The introduction of a 40+ unit housing complex would be an extreme shift in population density. A development of this size would cause major disruptions in the surrounding natural open space environment and potentially affect our drinking water. It would increase traffic congestion, putting our children and neighbors at a higher risk of accidents. Furthermore, it would put the residents of this proposed development at risk as well. There are no public transportation services currently routed through this area. There are no stores, pharmacies, or other services that are easily accessible. Over the past few weeks, I've been trying to educate myself on the ways in which a project like this would move forward. I understand that the town is hoping to secure funding through low-income tax credits, the application of which is based on a point system. If the Berkeley Peckham site is a favorite simply because of the higher points it would fetch, I urge the town council to reconsider. As an island, we have limited space available. There are numerous sites up and down West Main Road that are currently abandoned, run down, or vacant. I would much rather see a site like this rebuilt into a beautiful community development for our seniors. It would be an area that the town could be proud of, in addition to being a more opportune setting for our seniors. Most of West Main Road is already on public transportation lines and in close proximity to stores, pharmacies, and restaurants. In closing, I think we can all agree that we have a housing issue on the island, from affordable homes to senior living. However, I don't think that the Berkeley Peckham site is an appropriate location for this housing development. I am asking the Senior Housing Subcommittee and the Town Council to reconsider the site due to the effects a development will have on this area before making any final steps forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Christopher Green, Chris. Hi, Chris.
Good
Name and
evening.
address, please.
Christopher Green, 516 Corey Lane, Middletown. Thank you for allowing me to speak before you this evening. I have several different questions that I don't want to repeat what's already been repeated because it's been said very well. I received a mailing somewhere around February 7th and maybe 6th regarding the February 9th meeting, special meeting. Obviously short notice for the meeting, but I attended the meeting anyway, and I was very interested to see what was going to be discussed. And what occurred to me was it almost sounded as if this was a fait accompli. I mean, this is a done deal. Obviously, it's not, and I've kind of educated myself as time went on. My question is, who issued this mailing, which came from the town? And the document is a 7-page document that is the amended and posted special meeting agenda. Starts off that way, signed by the president, and then there's various attachments, memoranda from Mr. Spinella. There's I don't know what it is, a document from Keystone Consulting Group, which is a conclusions snapshot, and it describes project-based conclusions to renovate the subject property into a 40-plus elderly housing affordable units. And then it says for our survey of Section 8 elderly housing properties, the ratio was 90+% 1-bed and 10% 2-bed. I assume that, and I hope, that's simply a statistic that was drawn for comparison for the purpose of this. But I guess the question is, who is Keystone Consulting Group, and how old is this report? And what is this exactly? There was also attached to it Union Studios preliminary schemes, the various depictions of what it would look like. And it just kind of seemed to come out of nowhere, and with a project summary attached to it, which there's no explanation other than it takes somebody that's familiar with projects to understand what this project summary says. So I'd like to know where that came from, and who did this come from? The council? Did this come from the town manager, the town manager's office? Where did this come from? Because it was a very confusing and may have started quite a bit of controversy over this subject to begin with. I see that also on February 24th, a request for an additional $224,700 was requested by essentially through the finance director, through the town administrator. And again, so it appears that 3 more contracts have been let for Horsley Witten Group, Union Studios.
Chris, I have to interrupt you. I apologize, but I let you go over. But just let me answer your question. The documentation that you received was the documentation for the meeting that night. And it was the documentation on file with the clerk's office that was forwarded out for that night
By the clerk.
by the clerk.
Okay. Well, all right, that,
In other words, when we post a meeting, Chris, the
Yeah.
process is that we post as much information with that as we have, so that there's an awareness and a transparency to the people that are, see the posting. And that was the complete packages documentation, part of which came from the project manager, Frank Spinella. Okay?
and so
Chris,
this,
I'm gonna stop you.
okay, all right.
Okay? All right. I hope
you.
I hope I answered your question for you. Thank you, Chris. Dave Lehman, Dave? Dave, if you can rate, oh, there you go.
All right, can you hear me okay?
We can, name and address, please, Dave.
Sure, I'll give it to you here. Hello, I'm Dave Lehman. I'm speaking both for me and my wife, Karen Lehman. We reside at 307 Corey Lane. I'm also representing Roland and Ingrid Bennett, who live at 506 Corey Lane in Whitehall Farm. They have lived here for decades. My wife and I, however, have lived here for just over 3 years. I have to tell you, my wife and I love it here. We have never looked back on our move from North Kingstown until now. I'm very familiar with the development controversies such as this one. I spent 30 years as a news reporter and anchor, including many years at NBC 10 and ABC 6. I often heard the NIMBY word tossed about, NIMBY, of course, standing for Not in My Backyard. Now, there are often disgraceful reasons to oppose projects intended to help those in need. But as a reporter, I also witnessed that there are also good reasons to oppose a project. That may be the case here, and I say maybe because I'm trying to keep an open mind. But there is suspicion about this and a sense that there's a rush to close the deal. If this development was strictly affordable housing for Middletown's 65+ community with covenants that would protect nearby homes and developments from unwanted and foreseeable consequences, then I think this might be worth a close examination and consideration. But as a reporter, I've seen good intentions turn into police, fire, drug, and poverty issues that not only destroyed the development, the new development, but it also destroyed the neighborhoods around it. Now, we chose Middletown because of the quality of life this neighborhood and the surrounding community afforded. If we realized 4 years ago that much of that might change with a suspicious, unclear housing proposal, we would have likely stayed in North Kingstown or moved somewhere else on Aquidneck Island. If housing is built and it destroys or damages the homes that we bought, why would we support it? I mean, common sense can't be ignored in the pursuit of public policy efforts to help others. Middletown residents who built here, grew up here, or moved here don't want to be the victims of developers or town officials looking to solve a problem that we didn't create. Now, along with others, we have concerns about additional traffic and noise, buildings that are outsized for the property and its history, potential and residual crime, additional strains on the school system, parking lot lights and noise pollution that can increase the need for higher taxes, adding bus routes that can impair the flow of traffic on the narrow 2-lane Green End Avenue, Aquidneck Avenue, and Valley Road intersections. So if this is ever approved, it should be for Middletown seniors, not public housing. We shouldn't provide a housing solution that other communities have ignored. I'm always referencing an old saying I heard, failure to plan on their part should not create an emergency on our part. So I would ask the council and the town to be fully transparent on this. And when you send out documents, as the individual preceding me said, be sure they're clear so we understand. It drives me crazy as a former reporter and as a citizen of Middletown.
Dave, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up. You went over your time.
I'm wrapping it up. I'm just asking for transparency and clarity in what your intentions are and where the money is coming from. And
Thank you, Dave.
Middletown money.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dave.
Ron Augustus, Ron?
Hi, good evening. I'm Ron Augustus, 57 Berkeley Court. One of the ones that abut the Berkeley School property. Just to say, I mean, everybody's speaking tonight. Obviously, I agree with everyone, what they're saying and things. And I just want to, I'm not going to repeat stuff that I did before. There's no need to repeat them here. From the letters and emails in the last meeting. But what I say is that since that last meeting, you know, I've been down to school many, many times, measuring things, looking at things. And I still can't see how those buildings are going to fit within the area of the ball field and not have an impact on baseball down there. It's impossible from what I see. I said the parking is going to be a disaster. There's more than 30 cars there every weekend. You know, where are they going to go? There's no room for that. And I mean, looking at it, if there is another plan for that baseball field, as Dave just said, I mean, be transparent about it. Let us know that, you know, we don't plan on having baseball there anymore. But to see it there, I can't imagine how we can live together with those buildings and baseball. Some of you know, you might think that, you know, all these neighbors, they just don't want this in our backyard. And speaking for myself, you know, this type of housing, I don't want in my backyard. It doesn't belong there, as I said before. There's other things we could do down there. If you want to look at things recreational wise and stuff like that, I'll be glad to jump on a committee and help out with those things. But this is just crazy what we're doing, I believe, you know, with this. Definitely this area, these type of buildings and this type of housing belong on our main roads. You're listening to everything we've heard. The only one advantage you get here that you don't get anywhere else is that it's near the senior center. You know, so if you put any building anywhere else, it's not near a senior center. But I truly believe the advantages of being elsewhere outweigh of just not being in the vicinity of a senior center. The advantage of being on a bus line, near a shopping center, being near medical treatment buildings, far outweigh being near the senior center. You know, it's affordable housing, but it isn't affordable housing if the transportation costs are so high for those people. And lastly, you know, I don't know why I listened to you saying it was all out there and stuff. I know when I was growing up here, we had every single person in the neighborhood had the Daily News. I delivered the Daily News on my bicycle. There's probably many of you guys might have. It's not like that anymore. So I think maybe we should look at different ways to tell people all those things. I mean, the letter was okay, but like I said at that first meeting, you know, people didn't get that letter. I know people got it that same night and things like that. We have some problems right now with the Postal Service. And you were aware of it that night, and yet you still made a motion, you still passed it through. So, you know, the perception was, you know, why do we speak?
Ron, excuse me, I have to ask you to wrap it up. Thank you.
All right, and then, well, okay. Last thing I used to say, you know, thank you very much. You know, I'd like to say about the quietness, the secretness of that. You know, I was back there. I grew up with.
Ron, thank you. Thank you, Ron.
You got it. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Charles OBrien. Charles.
Hello, can you hear me?
You can. The name and address, Charles?
Hi, my name. Wait a minute. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
certainly can.
Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm having a problem. Can you hear me?
Name and address, Charles. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. My name is Charles OBrien. I have lived at 717 Green End Ave since September 1992. And I would just like to say that I am a close abutter, and I didn't know about this project until I received that mailing early February this year. I'm sorry that all the work and money has been spent in planning and developing this project, but this is what I have to say. Prior to 1992, the land I live on across the street from Berkeley Peckham School was undeveloped. When the proposal was put forth to build upon this land, the residents of Middletown were assured that each lot would be 1 acre to preserve the rural country look and open space feel so much appreciated and enjoyed by its residents. And that's the way all the land was developed. It is now known as Compton View Drive and Lighthouse View Drive. The proposed 3 large buildings conflicts with and destroys the feel of open space with distant vistas. In addition, I have concerns regarding the use of the baseball field, the War Memorial Baseball Field. The proposal allows for 30 plus or minus parking spaces for games. The field is used by Babe Ruth and the local adult baseball league, and I believe also used by the Middletown freshman and junior varsity baseball. Babe Ruth uses the field during the weeknights and on Saturdays. Every Sunday from May through September, the field is used for 3 games, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. Before the 9 and 12 o'clock games are completed, the 2 arriving teams are there for an hour to warm up. Also, players after ending their 9 and 12 o'clock games often stay to watch some of the next game. So there are 4 teams there at the same time. Each team has 14 players. With 4 teams, plus umpires and numerous spectators, all enjoying the outdoors and the use of the field at the same time, they require a heck of a lot more than 30 parking spaces. Also, the proposed buildings are to be located so close to the field that they would be struck by many foul balls. There are several places in Middletown with easy access to stores, restaurants, and public transportation on West Main Road that are much more suitable for these buildings. This project should have been looked at, and we should have been notified long before this plans were developed. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
Mary Alice Huggins. Mary Alice?
She's not there?
Mary Alice?
If she could raise her hand, Bob, because unless she's on some of them are on phone lines.
Mary Alice, if you could raise your hand, *9, we can move you over.
Any luck, Karen? No.
Okay. All right. Kim Blass, Kim, if you're there, if you could raise your hand, *9.
Yeah.
Kim, if that's you, if you could unmute yourself, *6.
Hello?
Yes.
You can hear. Thank you. My name is Rick Blass. I live at 111 Compton View Drive.
Okay.
My wife's giving me the opportunity to speak on her behalf.
Okay. Does that happen often at home?
Yeah, last minute, of course. My backyard faces the Berkeley Peckham facility, and I have a good sight line to the Berkeley Peckham property. The area surrounding the Berkeley Peckham property is primarily, single family homes in a rural setting on large lots. That is why my wife and I chose to be in this part of Middletown, and zoning was a major consideration in that decision. Apartments do not belong in this neighborhood. I would agree with my neighbors that the population density for the site is not fitting for this area. And that would be my major point, the comprehensive master plan for the town. It's a major departure, in my opinion. I've, of course, let my other neighbors talk about some of the other negative aspects and impacts of the project because there are so many. I do not oppose senior housing because I'm assuming the project has income limits as a premise for Middletown residents. My concern is the negative impact on property values. You don't want to squeeze an apartment building into a lot that is too small. And if you take the preliminary scheme illustration that someone gave me, and you cut out the proposed parking, the senior center, and the apartment complex, you can take it, and because I assumed it's basically to scale, you can take that whole section, which is what we're talking about, and it fits inside the fence line for the ballpark. It's really kind of ridiculous. It's only a small section of it sticks out over the outfield fence. So 98% of the area is the ball field, which is, I think, it's crazy. If you want to demolish school buildings, I think you should consider the John F. Kennedy School. It has not benefited the taxpayers of Middletown in some time. It's not being really utilized for a benefit of a Middletown taxpayer. The plat area map for the JFK site is 219,080 square feet. That's 50% bigger than the lot size that we're talking about over here at Berkeley Peckham. The abutting property over next to JFK, the back property line is apartments. The right side of the property line is apartments, and the left side is the library. It just seems to make sense that would be an ideal site. And if they put the senior center there, like I said, it's very convenient for the senior residents that would live there. Ripta runs by the location several times a day. There are 2 grocery stores, 3 pharmacies, several banks, and numerous eating establishments, all within 0.7 of a mile of that location. That is convenience, and that's important to seniors. The site there is 50% larger. If you take that into consideration as far as the density of your plan, you could fit 60 apartments there instead of 40.
Mr. Blass, I'm sorry, I have to stop you. You went over your time.
Okay, I was just about to finish anyway. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Debbie Lennon, Debbie? Deb, if you can hear us, if you can raise your hand. There you go. Deb?
Yeah, Karen, I don't know why we can't hear her.
Hello?
Because issues.
Yeah, Deb, name and address, please. Deb, if you can hear us, name and address, please.
Yeah, seems like she's having some connectivity issues, Bob. Or maybe we can come back to her.
Hello?
There you go. Okay, Deb, name and address, please.
Okay.
There you go.
Whew, thank goodness. 687 Green End Ave. I live right across from the Berkeley Peckham ball field. And I just want to be a part of this meeting, but everybody that has spoken before me has said pretty much everything that I had wanted to say. So there's not much I wanted to add. I just don't see anything positive with picking the Berkeley Peckham ball field. Again, with what everybody else said, I didn't know about this until the February 9th meeting. I did write a letter, as well as many others, and asked about that, and was told that there were numerous meetings were advertised and promoted in the public for residents to attend. I never saw that. I think we should have been told when this was even a consideration. I did look up the Daily News article from February 2018, where it said sites that were being considered was the current school administration property on Oliphant Lane and the site on Valley Road between East Main and West Main Roads. The article stated, so far they've proved to be non-starters, mainly because of the cost and complexity of taking on such deals. I'd just like to know why this part is considered. It's too congested. The ball field is beautiful. It's going to be too tight. There is no bus lines. There is no stores. Again, like everybody else has mentioned. I just can't reiterate enough that I don't understand this. And I wish we had been told long ago so we could have pointed these these thoughts out ahead of time. But anyway, I just want to thank you. I just wanted to put in my 2 cents.
Thank you, Deb.
Thanks, Debbie.
Okay, Bill Kelly. Bill, if you're there, if you can raise your hand, we can move you over.
Good evening.
Good evening, Bill. Name and address, please.
William and Jane Kelly from 46 Berkeley Court here in Middletown. Good evening, council members. I'd first like to acknowledge and thank the 3 council members who have been in touch with myself and the concerned members of our neighborhood. That, in fact, would be President Sylvia, Councilor Santos, and Flynn, who actively responded to all our concerns and appeared willing to consider the impact of the project, not only to the immediate abutters, but how it would additionally impact surrounding neighbors who must utilize Green End Avenue. Since the first Zoom meeting on this proposed project, we, the neighbors, have been conducting our due diligence to get up to speed on the project. In the course of our research, we sometimes and resources towards getting information, formulating valid concerns if the project was to move forward at Berkeley Peckham. The current proposal, as stated, is 40 units, but please remember, 40 units doesn't necessarily equate to only 40 more residents. The current advertisements appear to tout this project as affordable senior living. However, I don't think that truly identifies what may occur. One, it doesn't allow for Middletown residents exclusively, and if not enough Middletowners apply or are deemed ineligible because of federal funding requirements, it can be open to disabled individuals who under current guidelines could include drug-dependent individuals. Federal funding, while an attractive alternative to increasing taxes, may attach as many restrictions to the use of this project site, which could possibly supersede the town's ability to enforce current building codes and setback currently in effect. Mr. Spinella, the project manager, remarked at one of the recent meetings, that's the beauty of it. His statement alone seems to bring up a whole host of questions. The first of which is, what else don't we know? The second item I have is traffic flow. The current construction of Green End Avenue fronting this proposal is 2 lanes with no shoulder. Sidewalks along the section as described are either non-existent or in poor shape, certainly not consistent with senior living as proposed. More importantly, the speed and volume of traffic transiting the area will further adversely be affected by the influx of residents, guests, property management, and maintenance, with possible EMS response which only describes a regular day. How about the regular demands on game days? What will the overflow be parking on residents' grass or crowding along the shoulders of adjoining streets? There may be no other alternatives as the proposed project appears not an appropriate use of this property as proposed. Middletown currently is adding speed humps on Turner Road to slow the traffic using this area as a cut through. My question would be, is this project consistent with further attempts towards decreasing traffic in the area? Oh, and by the way, this is a main route to our beaches. Currently, no bus service is available in the areas. So how do you propose residents go to doctor's appointments and go shopping? And how about the surrounding neighborhoods? The area is predominantly 2-story residential. How does this proposed usage described as the barracks in comments offered to Councilor Santos fit into this setting? As the town current building code suggests, any proposed project protect the natural character of Middletown. How would this project affect the natural open space and views when it would require nighttime lighting to eliminate parking areas and be subject to frequent EMS and accompanying fire engines to assist residents awful in the middle of the night? All of our surrounding neighborhoods appear tastefully designed to allow the residents to enjoy what, in Councilor Toronto's own words, as country living. We, the surrounding taxpayers of this neighborhood, feel this location.
Joe, I apologize, but I'm going to have to stop you. I'll let you go over a little bit.
One last thing, please. Thank you for listening to us and hearing us.
Thank you.
In closing, please do not put the burden of the town on the backs of our respective neighborhoods. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Lawrence, Frank, Lawrence?
Lawrence Frank, 8 O'Donnell Road, Middletown. Affordable housing clearly is a pressing need in Middletown. However, having listened to tonight's discussion, there are clearly a number of legitimate concerns. Unfortunately, as Mr. Spinella has noted previously, we are under time constraints for the approval of this project. However, these questions that have been asked tonight must be addressed before this project goes forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Okay, Linda Finn. Linda, if you could raise your hand, then move you over. Name and address, Linda.
Linda Finn, 351 Compton View Drive in Middletown. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time tonight. This is a really important issue, and I guess I'm probably the lone person that I've heard tonight who is in support of this project. I do walk by the project almost every single day and have been for the past 23 years that I've lived here. And I actually was excited to hear that we would have senior housing that would be available. I think that a setting such as the one that we have right here is a wonderful setting for seniors rather than being on a busy road. Very often, I know with my own parents, getting out on West Main Road is a difficult road to get out on. And I think that Green End is certainly less traffic that way. And I also think that we've been trying to figure out what to do with that school for so many years. I don't even know how long it's been empty. But the obvious point of having the senior housing next to the senior center, to me, makes so much sense that it's a way for people to enjoy the senior center, to be able to walk there. It allows our older residents who want to stay in Middletown to have an option and to be in a community where they're around other people. My husband and I both wish that an option like that was available for our own parents, that when we were looking to move them out of their homes, there really wasn't very many options. And as many people know who have older parents, the assisted living is extremely expensive. And I think this would be a nice project. I also personally know Frank Spinella, and I know that the beautiful work that he and his firm did on the St. Clair nursing home in Newport, and they renovated that building beautifully and added an addition. And they from my husband's on the board there, and I know that he did a very good job. So I am in support of it. I think that I know that there's concerns, but I think that there's a lot of studies done, and we certainly know that legally, the town of Middletown is required to is supposed to have 10% of affordable housing in the town, and we have about half of that. And so I think this is an important project, and I support the council moving forward with it, addressing concerns of neighbors, of course, but I really hope that you will consider moving forward with it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
Okay, Richard Tapa. Richard? Rich, name and address, please. Richard, can you hear us? Rich, if you can hear us. Okay,
Bob, he's unmuted, his hand's up. We just can't hear him.
yeah. Rich, we'll give you another chance here. Okay. Ruth Sylvia Lesher. Ruth?
Hi there, can you hear me now?
We can, Ruth. Name and address, please.
Ruth Sylvia Lesher, my address is 352 Paradise Avenue. Thanks for letting me speak. Didn't know if I'd ever get through the line. Just have a few concerns that I think you all should address before we go ahead with this project. One of them, which has been brought up, has been the traffic on Green End Avenue. It's a 2-lane road, and that's kind of tough to have more traffic. Also, does the town have any open space requirements that these will not impact? You know, I know you've talked about senior housing percentages. What about the other ones, the open space? Also, how will this affect utilities as far as capacity and cost? Also, if it's low-income families, which I think are great to be able to get into the neighborhood, how is this affecting the school system? And last but not least, as a parent of a baseball player, how is this going to affect the people who live right near the baseball field who might want to sit outside and you have fly balls going out the left field line? You know, that should be addressed as well. And oh, one more thing. If it is going to be for low-income families, you need to change the name of the project. Thanks for letting me speak and good luck with this. And I hope we can address all these concerns and we can go forward with senior housing that's for Middletown residents, because I think that is a good cause.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thanks, Ruth.
Okay, I'm going to try Richard Tapa. Rich, we'll try you one more time. Rich, unmute yourself. Go ahead. Rich, can you hear us? Okay. So be it. All right, that Madam Clerk, you can take Richard off. Thank you. That concludes the call-ins, and I'm gonna open this up to the council for any comments. Any council would like to make any initial comments? Vice President?
Thank you, Bob, Mr. President. So, yeah, we have some concerns we need to address. You know, I feel bad. I mean, when we advertise meetings, maybe back then we should have hung the door flyers then, I guess. It was no secret. I know people get suspicious of what are they trying to push through. That's not the case at all, folks. We're trying to do the right thing for Middletown. We've been talking about Middletown being an aging community for years now, and the growth of the senior population. So, you know, we're trying to address that, and you know, I know nobody likes it in their backyard. I get that part of it, and I hear you loud and clear about that. I also think that, you know, I grew up here. I lived here my whole life, and I can remember when I went to school there. There was a school there. So talk about activity. There was a lot of activity with the school there, the buses and the children, the noise and the, you know, so, you know, I know some of that was probably before Whitehall, maybe a little bit after Whitehall, before Compton View. We're trying to do the right things here, folks. We're not trying to be suspicious. And I know some of it might have come across like that because of the way we notify, maybe it's not the way you perceive it, we should be notifying. So meetings are posted, just like regular council meetings are posted. So I just want to clear that part of it up and apologize for that part of it. So having said that, you know, when I grew up, like I said, there was schools there, the school was there, There was a lot of activity. Whitehall wasn't there. I spoke to Rita Finn earlier in the week, and Bill and Jane Kelly, I did come by your place because you invited us up there in the letter that you sent us, but you weren't there. So I just didn't get a chance to get with you. So I apologize for that. But, you know, my friend's family owned the farm there at Whitehall. That was a farm. People didn't want that development there at the time. And now look at it. It's no problem. It's great. There are legitimate concerns. I'm not trying to minimize anybody's concerns. I think we have some concerns that we need to address. But rest assured, we're trying to do the right thing for everybody in Middletown. You know, so do I think there could be, in my own mind, the more I thought about it after the April 9th meeting and listened to Ron Augustus and got the letter from Bill and Jane Kelly and heard folks here tonight, sure. I mean, some of the ideas certainly ran through and are still running through my mind about maybe what we should do there, or maybe a little there. Maybe we use the existing footprint of Berkeley. It won't give us enough units, but maybe we could do something somewhere else. There was also a survey that went out for the senior population that, you know, was very, very successful when it came back as far as the number of responses because of the aging community. And, you know, that survey, it was pretty clear in that survey that the seniors don't want to be on main roads. I know that there's restaurants there, and logically you would think that, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, in pharmacies and grocery stores. They don't want to be on they're afraid to be on the West Main Road or any main road. And as far as a couple of comments tonight, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, low-income families, it's not for low-income families, it's for low-income seniors. That's what it's for. It's 55 and over. Also, another thing that I talked with Rita about, and we actually talked about it in the committee meeting, was the committee meetings over a couple of years. And it was quite educational because this is pretty cumbersome as far as the permitting process and, you know, the things you need to go through. We did kick around the idea a little bit of, you know, because one of the concerns was, you know, can we just make it for Middletown residents? And with the federal funds, you can kind of market it in a certain way, is what I was told, to you know, have Middletown residents be the priority. Because in other communities, when you go and you talk, you know, my sister, obviously most of you know my sister is the director of the senior center, and she goes to, you know, other affordable housing places, you know, or if somebody calls the senior center looking for housing, somebody in need, a senior in need, and it happens all the time, she tries to get them into a senior facility, and she's gone to Newport and she's gone to Portsmouth, and you know, they're put on a list, but it's prioritized on those lists that, you know, their residents come first, is what I'm told. So getting back to the idea that we did kick around the idea of what if we paid for this and floated a bond and didn't use federal funds and did it ourselves. So, I mean, there's options. You know, the council chose this option because does the town really want to be in the real estate business? You know, so those are just some thoughts. Hear you loud and clear, and you know, we'll figure this out. We're all trying to do the right thing, and we're open the right direction for everybody in the community. So I appreciate the time, Bob, and I appreciate everybody calling in tonight, voicing their concerns.
Thank you. Any other council? You can make any comments? Councilor Toronto.
Thanks, Bob. And I want to thank everyone for calling in too. There are definitely some concerns that we need to keep in mind. I'd like to hear from Frank. I know he's been on the call, so he's kind of listened to everybody, and wanted to see if he had any comments.
Good evening.
Good evening, Frank.
Good evening, Frank.
Mr. President, members of council, and residents who are listening. I did hear all of the comments, and I read all of the letters and emails that were forwarded from the neighbors and residents nearby. And I think that there are a few of the items will definitely be flushed out through the process, meaning the environmental issues, drainage, well water, those sort of things all get dealt with through the process. We are required, any development is required to have a zero net runoff from a drainage standpoint. So any water that we put into the ground can't leave the site faster than it currently does. And in fact, it'll be a whole lot better than it is because there's a whole lot of asphalt on this site plus rooftop. Currently, I do take exception a little bit when people are use a bit of a scare tactic in saying that if we don't have enough seniors to come, that other types of people, I heard someone say people with drug addiction. I think that's really not fair to put that out there because one, we did a market study and the market study concluded that there's plenty of need. And you years ago as a council came up with the fact that you needed to produce housing for seniors. And I think that I just wanted to get that on the record. And the other aspect of Middletown residents versus other residents, I think is important to discuss because no matter how this is funded, you would still need to follow fair housing rules. When someone markets a condo in the condos next door, or even the houses at Compton View, they don't only say, only if you live in Middletown can you come and buy this. So everyone comes from somewhere. Obviously, the people who see it in the local paper, meaning the for sale properties nearby, would be the first ones to be able to access that. And similarly, marketing is dealt with typically in these sort of developments very locally. It would be deed restricted as 55 and over, so there wouldn't be families and children. And I think the market study came up with the mix. And one of the gentlemen that spoke talked about they did a study of Section 8 elderly residents. And yes, it was just for a study, just to see the unit mix typically in senior housing developments. We're doing one on the other side of the state right now with another community. And the mix is very similar to this. It's 90% one bedrooms and 10% two bedrooms. I think that this council settled on no more than 40 units. And I think the market study said 40 plus or minus. Everyone who spoke it tonight seemed to harp on the 40 plus, but not the 40 minus, which was also in that study. So I think we've settled that 40 would be the max. The hard work is really ahead of us now to really vet all of those issues. If we can't get the environmental to work, then the development couldn't move forward. If you couldn't get the required water capacity, because this would be on town water as opposed to well water, and sewer capacity and gas and those sort of the utilities side, then it couldn't be built here. As far as parking lot lights, I heard someone speak to that. Almost always they're all down lights now that don't shed. We have to do a light study as part of the process that don't shed light onto neighboring properties. My direction from you all as the council was to look at the need and the feasibility of this site, as well as what the needs are for the entire community. I think that from this site's perspective, if you recall our first study, which you all hired me well over a year ago, and we had somewhere between almost up to 60 units if we were to maximize the site. and you settled and gave me direction to have a 2-story building with no more than 40 units. I think that I will say again that if you wanted to minimize the impact on the parking, you could certainly go up versus going out, and that would make it a whole lot easier, but that's not what you voted on at the last time I was before you. So we will deal with that. And I think that you had some competing comments from the same neighbors saying that traffic would be increased, but yet they should be near a bus on a bus route. I think that the vice chairman said that there was a study done by the seniors and the residents of the community that said they don't want to be anywhere near West Main Road. And so near the senior center is really helpful. And as you get older, residents drive a whole lot less. And these cars would not leave as much as people who are going to work every day or commuting somewhere, if they are in fact retired. But 55 and older isn't 75 and older either. So there could be some working folks in there. I mean, I'm 55. And if I were living in a 1-bedroom apartment there, I'd probably still be working. I think I've touched on most of the points that people addressed. If you'd like me to discuss anything else, I'm happy to.
Councilor Welch?
Thank you, Mr. President. Frank, one of the things I kept hearing in the emails, and tonight we heard a lot too, is the whole baseball field thing, not only from the standpoint of 30 spaces isn't enough, but also the proximity to the east wall of the building, foul balls. And I know you can put up you can put up mesh or something in there, but how does that lay out? Do you feel there is sufficient room, and what about the parking?
So I think that the parking will, we included the number of parking spaces that are currently there for the baseball field. We also included additional parking for the senior center, as well as what we think is needed for the building. If you were to go 3 stories, it becomes a much easier solution to parking. I mean, if you look at the condos and the site to the west of the east of the ball field, that's a big field right there. Could that be used for additional parking? I don't know. I'm guessing that's owned by the condo association. Maybe there's something that can be worked out. If in fact baseball is the priority. I was asked to look at the housing because that seemed to be the bigger priority without touching the baseball field and without touching the senior center. So those are the things that we considered. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Welch.
I think what I took away from that was I forget which gentleman spoke about, and I get it. The 2 teams warm up while you're waiting for the other game to finish, and there's some spectators, and, I can't recall, going to Berkeley Peckham and remembering where I had to park. I thought I always parked out, by the stands, but maybe on game days like that, it's not enough. And I just don't know. I'm pretty sure we heard from residents of Whitehall that, it's owned by some archdiocese or somebody, but that's not an option. So maybe we just need to hone in on that to make absolutely sure that there's enough space. And I'm not exactly sure how to do that, but we got close. Thank you.
Yeah, so the studies thus far have been just to see what could fit on the site and then what is the market and what is the need. I think going forward, we'd really get into all of the specific needs of the competing uses, meaning the baseball field, the senior center. Even at the senior center, we've planned on, as directed by you all, to include budget money to upgrade that building, new windows, renovate the interior, new HVAC system. And so do we relocate the handicap access to it to make better parking situations for the people going to the senior center? All those things would be vetted from here on in. We would get the engineers and the architects looking very closely at it.
Just one more follow-up to the baseball, Frank, and we heard a couple of people say that, I believe you said, and I remember you saying it, that if we were to take a portion of the baseball, or if you decided you want to, as far as I was concerned, that was never part of the plan. You were just throwing out options. So, I mean, you were just coming up with ideas. So as it sits, the baseball field stays intact, correct, at this point?
Yes, Mr. Welch. So prior to you being on the council, my direction was, or my charge was to see what the maximum number of units we could fit on the entire site. And initially we considered even raising the senior center and building a building and incorporated the senior center, and then taking the ball field or moving the ball field or using the whole ball field. But since then, I would say probably 6 months ago or so, I was, our studies really focused on not using any of the ball field and leaving the senior center as it was, because that was the direction I was told to go in by the council.
Thank you.
Any other council? Council Santos.
Where do I begin? I'd like to thank all the council members and all the people that called me, that emailed us. Let me begin. I was born of immigrant parents. My parents were farmers. And when my dad had to give up farming back in 1953, my husband and I had already built our home on Morrison Avenue. They came to live with us. They lived with us for many, many years. All around me was vacant land, was farmland. There wasn't any Compton View. It was owned by the Furtado brothers. Things have changed. I can understand the people around Berkeley Peckham. They have their roots there. Their kids have grown up. Some of them even live in their parents' house. Some of them have built homes on Furtado land, which, by the way, the Furtados lost everything, every single penny. They died paupers, which should have never happened. I am not reading from a prepared script, nor did anybody write for me. I'm speaking from the heart. I was born in Middletown many years ago. Paul and I go through this many times. He was conceived in Middletown. I was born in Middletown. I was born on what is now Navy land. I've seen so many changes in Middletown. I can understand where the people around Peckham School, it's known as the Joe Peckham School. I know where they're coming from. They have a wonderful community. They've built homes around there. Many of them have purchased homes. I know we need senior housing. We need it desperately. But is this the location? Is this the actual place we need to put our seniors in for the rest of their lives? Let's think about this very seriously. We've already spent money. We spent hours. And I want to get something straight. I was on the original committee, but I decided to step down. We have to really think about this. I showed a picture of the concept of the building to my seniors, and their reaction was they don't want to live in barracks, and that's what it looks like. It's not appealing to the seniors, at least some of the seniors that I spoke to. It's barracks. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Councilor Santos. Councilor Toronto?
I was just going to see if Sean had anything he wanted to say. I know he's been working closely with Frank, so just wanted to get his thoughts.
I took notes this evening from the residents, and I think as Paul said, we just need to work through that list of questions and get the answers out to people as quickly as possible.
Great, thanks. I do want to say, in regards to the building itself, and Ms. Santos, I know you're looking at the drawing that we came up with. And again, this is more of a drawing to look where the building could be located, not so much what the aesthetics of the building is going to look like. That's the next step as we get closer, as we start looking at where what it's going to look like, what's the materials, what's the landscaping, and it's going to take on a lot of, look and feel of what the neighbors want in the area and what Middletown wants. So it's going to be a beautiful building. I've seen Frank's work. We saw pictures of it. If he develops for us what he's developed for other people, it's going to be a beautiful building. We're going to be proud of it. And, we've done a lot with the surveys, getting information from our seniors, what they're kind of looking for a senior affordable housing. And we have met for a few years on this. So appreciate everybody's feedback. And I'm glad we're going to work through those. Sean, thank you for recording those. I'll look through my notes as well. And I'd just like to see us continue to move forward. If this is the right place, we need to make that decision. And I know that we're also looking for other options going forward.
Okay. Any other council want to make any comments? Okay. I'm just going to make a couple comments and observations. I think the vice president touched on it tonight, perhaps, and not for no reason. Apparently, our due diligence has a lot to be considered. That we didn't reach out to some of these neighbors early on. In fact, I was shocked when someone reached out to me and told me that they hadn't been spoken to. But it was not meant facetiously. It was not to hide anything. I know that. I know the people that sat on the committee. When we started this, and this has been evolving for a few years now. Originally, we talked about even 3 separate locations to the councils that were here. And we talked about putting an addition on the side of where Forest Farm nursing home is. We're putting 25 units there. We talked about putting at the same time St. Lucy's field, the borders St. Lucy's property, to put 25 units there and to also put 25 units at Berkeley Peckham. So it would have been 75 units over 3 separate locations. How we evolved into this, for the most part, probably had to do with economics. We said, we got a piece of property that we own. We don't have to purchase. And we looked at that. And originally, and I think it was brought up earlier, is that when we first looked at Berkeley Peckham, we looked at 25 units out there. We didn't look at 40. We looked at 25 units. And then it evolved into that because, again, economics. How do we get our return? How do we fund this? How do we pay for this? So we looked at it that way. And we looked at possibly also the number that we do. Am I sure today that we're going in the right direction? No, I'm not. I think we need to do some more due diligence on this. And I don't mean just staying tunnel focused on Berkeley Peckham. Maybe we need to peek around a little bit more. There's some other places that we looked at in the past and see what we can potentially resurrect. Again, my feelings. We certainly heard the message loud and clear from the residents in around Berkeley Peckham School, and I can understand a lot of their comments. It's funny. I had a conversation with the vice president about Whitehall when Whitehall was being built and moved into the area. You know, the people out there were opposed to it. They didn't want Whitehall. They didn't want Portland. They didn't want that complex out there. But it turned into something very beneficial for the town of Middletown. And a lot of people that reside there now have been able to have a quality of life that gives them some of that rural, you know, feel out there in the environment out there. But do I think we should look at maybe potentially other locations again? Yeah, I do. I think for us to try to jam a size 12 foot into a 10 shoe, I don't think we're doing ourselves a service. I really don't. I think we really have to take a look at this, and before we get too engaged in this too far, perhaps, but this is again my personal feeling. I think we need to kickstart this the senior housing, affordable housing committee again, whether the same members want to stay engaged in it or not, but we need to get it engaged and we need to get it driven, and we need to go out there and do the due diligence, what we would expect if something was going to be around us. So that's my 2 cents. If anybody wants to comment. Vice President, I got you right after that, Dennis.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, I mean, you know, we're charged to do what's right for what's the needs are of Middletown. We're charged to do what's the will of the residents that are being affected. Typically, you know, there's some type of when you work it out, and you know, you're never going to satisfy everybody. We all know that, but you do the best you can to try to satisfy everybody. I certainly think, you know, going forward, we're going to need more units anyway. We've talked about that. Certainly open to had the conversation with Rita Finn earlier in the week, the first speaker tonight, and you know, that's kind of where my mind was at the time after we received all these emails going, wait a minute, you know, we're not perfect. Are we doing this right? Should we just kind of take a step back and reevaluate based on the residents' input? And I think probably we should at this time, just to make sure we get it right wherever it is. And it's not going to be just my opinion. It's not going to be, nor could it be, just one location to satisfy the needs. I think we would all maybe agree on that. But, you know, some of my thoughts were, you know, I know it's more costly, and Bob, you touched on the economics and why we made some of the decisions we made, because, you know, financially you have to do your due diligence and be responsible. Also, you know, we need to, for me, after seeing some of the emails, maybe we use that existing footprint. And there's, you know, some units there, and with a minimal impact, and there's not additional buildings blocking views on Berkeley Court, or the gentleman that spoke that lived in Compton View, or the gentleman that spoke that lived right across the street, and the lady that spoke that lived across the street from the proposed building. Also, you know, I always, in the back of my mind and my heart, you know, I always wanted to, you know, kind of keep the existing aesthetics of Berkeley and the senior center. So maybe we look at, you know, other places and, you know, take a look at maybe, I know earlier I said the seniors don't want to be on West Main Road, and they don't. But, you know, we talked about Oliphant School at one point in time. There you could add on, you know, we'd have to obviously involve the school committee. These are just thoughts. And, you know, when you say something and it gets out there, these are just thoughts, and these are my thoughts. And so, you know, do we take it on ourselves? I don't know. We kick that around. It seems to be coming back around. And, you know, this is all part of the process of, you know, listening to people and, you know, and taking a step back and making sure we get it right. And I don't care how long it takes us. You know, to me, I know there's a permitting deadline, but and we'd like to meet that deadline, but that doesn't matter. I think we need to make sure that whatever we do, we get it right from a time perspective. And not from a time perspective, from a resident perspective. So that's kind of my thoughts. But I do, Bob, appreciate you speaking to the financial end of it, and why we did, and kind of laying it out. And Dennis, you also, and on how this thing came about, and Frank and Tom asking questions about the ball field, and that's not under consideration. That's War Memorial Field. I mean, there's long-term residents out there and families, names of lost ones in the wars out there. So that, to me, all that stuff's important. And I'm sure it is to my colleagues and residents in that area. I know, Ron Augustus's letter that I read he mentioned the Jacombs who lived on the right-hand side of Berkeley Court, large family, and their brothers on that stone, Jesse, who died in the war, and Ray and Al worked for the town for years. So there's a lot of history too, as well. So again, I can go on and on and on. I'd love to, because I love to talk. But I know we should also have time constraints. So those are just some of the thoughts I have. Maybe we just take a step back, fire up the committee, and get more residents involved, and see where it goes.
Okay. Councilor Toronto, you want to make some comments?
No, I'm good. That was fine. Paul kind of summed it up.
Didn't miss much, did he?
You do the right thing, and we can answer some of these questions. But we did look at a number of spots. I know Sean and Frank looked at a number of spots, so I guess they could maybe pick up where they left off there and bring some more details forward and see where and if we want to, how we want to move forward. I just know that it's something that we have been looking at for a while. I hope the people, we need to get the whole community involved, because I guarantee you, if we put it out in Linden, there'll be people out there that want to talk about it, which is fine. If we decide someone had mentioned Kennedy School, if that's where we want to go, then we're going to talk that through out there with those folks. And so there's other areas we've looked at, and financially, this one was making a lot of sense. It was sort of raised it to the top of the selection process. We went through this. It wasn't the only one we looked at. And so happy to step back and re-engage. So again, I appreciate everyone calling in.
Okay. Vice President.
Whatever we do, I just want to make sure that our communication and how we go about it is advertised very, very clearly to everybody, so that there's no misconceptions or I didn't know about it, and I understand how that happens at times, and when none of us are happy about that. But I just want to make sure that when we go forward, that our advertising and our communication is clear to everybody.
Okay. I think it's good lessons learned going forward. I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion that we reinstitute the Senior Affordable Housing Committee. And part of that being we'll take nominations for anybody that would like to serve on it. And we can vote on those ourselves tonight. But first of all, I'd like to make a motion that we reinstitute the Senior Affordable Housing Committee.
Second.
Have a second. Any conversation? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, I'd like to make a motion to solicit members of the town council to be part of that committee, and I'll accept nominations. Anybody want to put a nomination in, Vice President?
I'm not sure I want to nominate anybody, but I just want it to be known that, when I start something, I want to see it to the end. I want to make sure you wouldn't or anybody else wouldn't get it right. I was on it, and I just want to remain on it and see, be part of this. It's probably one of the bigger things we're ever going to do.
Okay, so I'll second your self-nomination. Okay. Anybody else like to be on it? Councilor Toronto.
Yeah, Bob, one of the questions, I mean, it kind of, I'm just looping back to all the meetings we've had. And one of the things was, we have the subcommittee. I think the subcommittee is still in place. But I mean, I know that you wanted to bring it to the council level. I mean, that was part of the reason to take it from the subcommittee and bring it to the council level, because that's how important this process is going to be. And that's how we got it back to the council and how Sean got involved with Frank. And this is kind of pre-COVID. And since COVID's come on, I know they've been moving forward with it and, looking at some things. And we've gotten a couple updates here and there. But you wanted it to be more of a council priority. So you want to now put it back to the subcommittee again to do what?
I do, and I wanted to bring it back. I'm going to be totally frank with you. I wanted to bring it back because it was dying on the vine. That's the way I felt. And you and I had that conversation. So having said that, whether it was COVID, whether it was anything, I just want to, let's do it. And I think we need a select committee from the council to drive it. And then bring back your recommendations. It's very difficult to have the entire council drive projects like this. We've been there before. I think it's easier, especially now with the relaxing COVID guidelines that are starting to relax a little bit. I think it's going to be easier. Did COVID affect it? Yes, it did. Okay. Did it slow down? Okay, but we need some drivers that are going to drive it. Okay, and go ahead, Councilor Toronto.
When you know that I don't agree with you when it comes to it bogged down. This was this process, that committee that I was on and Mrs. Santos was on and Anton was on, and we met with all kinds of folks and learned about this process. Okay.
But you and I can have a sidebar.
No, but I want to just make sure that you're not putting something out there that's not the truth. It's
I'm not putting something out there. I know it's been out there for years. That's what I know.
Not factual though. So don't say it's been taking forever, because we haven't done anything in 10 years.
Okay.
We're and I'm determined not to take 10 more years.
I mean, I'm going to nominate you to be back on the committee.
I want to make sure that the decision makers can be on this. Sean Brown should be on this. Frank should be on this. Paul wants to be on it. Great. I'll be on it. Hopefully we can get some citizens on it. People who want to participate from the citizens. We don't, I'm all for that.
Yeah, all for it. But listen, what we need to do is, once we form this committee, we'll have the clerk advertise for people to serve on this committee. And then we can make those appointments at a later time. But let's get initial body of councilors engaged so we can start the process.
Someone had put it out there once before and said, maybe we should let the people vote on it, special election. This is a big decision. If someone had written, it was a suggestion that came from a resident, maybe they need to consider.
Maybe that would be the recommendation at the end of the day. Councilor Santos, you want to make a comment?
All right, I probably am going to kick myself where the sun doesn't shine.
I'll second your nomination.
How did you know what I was going to say?
I did.
You did.
I did.
All right.
All right. I'd also like to nominate Councilor Toronto. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second.
Second.
I'd also
I
like
have a question.
Go ahead.
Are we going to dissolve the committee that is presently on? You just want to start with just the council people, and then we're going to move forward. What's going to happen to the previous?
We're going to, Councilor Santos, we're going to advertise. We're going to engage the senior citizen director again, members of her staff, but we're going to engage the entire community. We're going to advertise for the entire community. Afford everybody and anybody an opportunity to be on this. So if there's people that live in Berkeley Court to the Eastern's Point, anybody that wants to be engaged in it can be engaged in it, can apply for it.
How many people are you looking at?
Well, let's talk about that at a later time. Let's
all right.
Let's start moving forward. I also think, and I think in all fairness to Councilor Flynn, who I know was on it, I'm gonna nominate her to be back on it because she was on it. So do I have a second on Councilor Flynn?
Second.
Okay, Councilor Flynn. Do I have any other counselors? So we have, right now, we have Counselor Toronto, we have the Vice President, we have Counselor Santos. Counselor Welch, would you like to get engaged in this?
No, thank you.
Okay. Counselor Von Villas? No, okay,
You
all
just
right,
came
so
up with-
right now,
You just came up with a quorum.
Yes, that's what I'm concerned.
yeah, I can't do, all right, I'm sorry, I did come up with a quorum. All right, so, all right, I'll retract Counselor Flynn then, my nomination for Counselor Flynn. And that way, any counselor can attend the meetings anyways, okay, but, so I'll make the recommendation that it's the Vice President, that it's Counselor Toronto, and it's Counselor Santos. To be the base committee, just the base committee, okay? Counselor Toronto.
I would like to include Frank and also Sean.
We can do that. We can do that.
I'm actually involved in every committee by charter, so.
And I think Frank is there as the.
Frank is there as a consultant.
Anyway, so.
Exactly.
Okay.
We just need to have them there during the meeting, so we make sure this thing is being documented and it's moving forward.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yeah, and I guess that's my point. I don't think Frank and I need to be voting members of the committee where there's support staff.
Okay. So
Do you need a second for those three nominations?
I do, Counselor Von Villas. All right, we have it. All
Thank
right.
you, Barbara.
Any further conversation? All right. So the motion was to appoint Counselor Toronto, Counselor Santos, and the Vice President. And then our clerk is going to advertise for the positions. And I think between now, I think we could advertise between now, April 5th.
Yeah.
I think April.
We won't have enough time to get the application.
All right, okay, I'm being told we won't have enough time to get the applications back. So let's do the second meeting in April. We can make the official appointments of anyone else that would like to be part of this committee. Does that sound all right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Mr. Vice President.
I want to thank everybody tonight, and I'm going to listen to my
Lot done
favorite.
tonight.
Huh?
We got a lot done. We got a lot accomplished.
Yeah, we did. So
Yeah,
I
we listened to
appreciate
the community, and that's the most important thing.
that's the key. So my three favorite words, motion to adjourn.
Okay, do I have
Second?
a second. All in favor? And thank everybody tonight.
Aye, thank you.
See you Monday night.
Okay.
Good night.